Hi, Nick. How are you? My name is Itzel. I'm from Chihuahua, Mexico. And today I would like to ask you some questions I met you at Stanford University at Trip Camp program. And I was very interested in your talk where you talked about how do you relate entrepreneurship with your program with your business of RSD. And first of all, I would like to start with asking you, how did you come up with the idea of creating RSD?
Well, it was also a great pleasure meeting you, so thank you very much for the interview. Um, I created RSD actually almost by accident. It wasn't my plan to ever become an entrepreneur. That never hit my mind, and other than the fact when I was a kid, I was doing websites for people, and that was kind of entrepreneurial. And I was doing it as a barter, but it wasn't for money. It was a barter in exchange for horse riding lessons or for a suit. But I guess I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit. And so I guess when I got into college, I kind of was building up cool entrepreneurial ventures, like throwing parties, or I became a licensed stockbroker by myself without a firm sponsoring me. I created my own firm just to sponsor myself. But when I created RSD, it was entirely by accident. See, when I was growing up most of my life, I didn't really have a huge social circle, an active dating life that was commendable in any way whatsoever. I actually was overall, I guess, an outgoing person, but at the same time, I didn't really know how to connect with people or relate to people the way I can now. And as a result of that, I didn't really have that big social circle. So what I was really fascinated with ever since I was really young was how people communicate with each other successfully and to get the right results. And as a result of that, I got addicted to the fact that there's forums on the internet where people are sharing ideas. People were talking about how to pick up girls and meet girls and all the tactics that they were doing. And I was thinking to myself, wow, this is really interesting. I should try this stuff out. And I love the idea of social experimentation, the concept that you just try things and see the result. Whether you are rejected, whether you fail, or whether you get a successful result, it doesn't really matter to me. As long as I'm trying, I'm learning, and it was exciting. And I guess you could say I love the process of learning. That's what we called the game. It was an experiment, a social experiment, and the field was the world, where we would just socialize and try to experiment with different tactics for dating. So we created this. I guess the company was created mostly out of that experiment and wanting to continue that experiment. In order to fund it, because I was traveling all over the world, I had to fund it. But in order to fund it, I had to get money. So I guess when clients contacted me, they said, hey, I'm reading your stories. I wanted to figure out a way I could, reach out to these people. So I said, you know what, I'll come out to you, but you have to reimburse me for my flights. That's how we first started. And my buddy, Tyler, who became my business partner, he said, oh, tell them that you need me to fly out with you. And so I came out with him. That turned into a concept for a business course. I mean, a course that we turned into a business. It's the Real Social Dynamics program that's now our boot camp.
That's very nice. And what are some tips that you can give to young people about socializing?
Well, I guess
Well,
if you
maybe
want like
socializing like with friends, of course, dating, but also like whenever you are on the entrepreneurship uh, area, you have to have a good network and have to have some skills to socialize with either mentors, other entrepreneurs.
the most basic building blocks of networking is that you're looking to offer value to other people more than you're looking to offer value for yourself. If you come from the frame of trying to give value to other people, then you're more likely going to be quickly connecting with those people that are most powerful and most influential in your life in the future. It also is going to come across that way. Now, you don't want a situation where you're just giving to the point where it hurts you. But when you can, help out, you want to. For example, one thing that I used to do all the time was volunteer my time to help other people, to learn from that process. And And that allowed me to learn and become a better person and also allowed me to build a connection with other people. I did that through internships and volunteering from businesses and throughout the government. Another thing that I wanted to look at was try to figure out what I actually want myself, know my identity, know what I'm needing, and try to put myself in a situation where I was surrounding myself with those people that could help me. So for business, I was attending business mastermind groups. For dating, I was trying to attend high-end events that had high-quality women that I wanted to meet. And I guess the third thing that I would focus on is to control your inner state. What that means is the emotions you feel inside. You want to lose dependence on the outcome when you're networking with people and do it to the point where you honestly don't care. You care more about the reference experience, the learning lessons. That's the most difficult part because a lot of times when people go out to a bar or club to meet a girl, or they're in a cocktail event, or they're even in a business environment, if they get shot down or rejected or denied, it ruins their day. You can't allow that to happen. I think that those are the three most important basic tenets of networking for business.
All right. And what do you think is the best way to reach out to an investor or to a mentor?
Well, I usually reach out to people that I develop relationships with in terms of like investing or getting money. Now, I haven't had to have any investors in my company other than myself. But I have reached out to investors because I thought about raising that money. And I raised about $1.6 million. It took me about 2 weeks. I ended up not taking any of that money though. But what I did was I reached out to friends, people that trusted me, who believed in my business skills. Because people don't invest in the business. They invest in the person. And if you could establish yourself as someone who has a great work ethic, integrity, and a good idea, but mostly you as a person being someone who is competent, has the skill sets, the education. And that's also why I believe so much in the educational process. I've been in college or the formal education academic system almost my entire life. I've taken a few breaks off here and there, but I'm still in school now. I mean, I'm still studying at Harvard right now. And I still go to mastermind groups now and then. Most of the time I'm speaking at mastermind groups. I even was a speaker at Harvard for business. I mean, I was a speaker at Stanford for business, but I'm actually a student as well as an entrepreneur. And at the same time, I believe it's super important to always continue to learn because just one idea could dramatically change almost everything. And that's been super important to me and my life. Now, in terms of not just investors, but other powerful people, the way I reach out to people is to try to find those groups where we have a common interest, a common kind of goal. You can do that through charitable organizations and being a part of that. You can do that through the same kind of extracurricular activities. But you can also do that through formally organized mastermind groups like the trip camp that you attended or other kind of events similar to that. I've attended countless amounts of those and I found a massive value because you usually find those people that are coachable to be the people that you want to learn from anyway. And so getting to the standpoint where you're willing to learn, willing to expand your mind, you're more likely to be the kind of person to be able to successfully teach other people as well.
Okay. And what are the things that for you have been the most challenging?
Well, the biggest challenges I've had was to try to figure out for my system how to make it better. The machine I built, the company that is a machine that produces a massive amount of free content, free videos, but also supports an infrastructure of a lot of people doing a lot of big projects. And it's been a big challenge because sometimes you'll grow too fast and then your money's crunched. Sometimes you grow too slow and your money's crunched. So I guess it comes down to be able to fund that engine. And it's a big balancing act. And I still have to play that game every day of the week, all year round.
Okay. It's a challenge then.
It's a huge challenge, especially when you hit big issues that affect everyone. For example, when the recession hit, I had all my money crunched up, and in order to figure out a solution, I'd have to tinker with random ideas. One of them was to give my executives one day off every week, so I wouldn't have to pay them for that day. The other idea I implemented was to do the opposite for my lower end staff, people who were not in a managerial position but were still critical. I would give them 1 day a week they could work and 4 days they couldn't. You know, this is something that I think was innovative to me, but I realized that when the recession hit, a few months later after I had already implemented this idea, I found out that the state of California, which was going bankrupt, had the same problem. And they made it so that the government staff could only work 4 days a week as opposed to 5. But I mean, little tinkering like that I had to do throughout the whole company. I had to terminate entire departments of my company, bring them back later when we were back on top of our game and we had more products to support the infrastructure.
Okay. And how do you relate all these skills that you're telling me like into dating? Why
You
is
know,
that relation there?
when I look at dating, I look at you trying to develop a relationship with somebody on a very deep level where you have trust, intimacy. In business, the company that we have, it's kind of like family because we don't hold anything back. We have that radical honesty with each other. We keep things that way. That trust turns into loyalty. It's honesty and integrity. The same thing has to happen in dating. Similar also in dating and networking, you have to be willing to approach people you don't know. You have to do it in real life, you have to do it over the phone, you have to do it over the internet, and you have to do it with an outcome and a goal. But at the same time, you can't be relying on that outcome or goal to determine a success. If you want to determine what success is, it's really just you taking your best shot. Now, the scary thing is if you're an entrepreneur as opposed to somebody else, you risk everything all the time. And so you still have to be willing to lose dependence on that outcome. But you also have to have backup plans, contingency plans. So if you fail, you know you're taken care of. I think a lot of people, they don't have a backup job or backup source of income or some credit to support them. I think that's important as well. I have friends that will always recommend that to other people. I know Gary Vaynerchuk, he's somebody who I have a lot of respect for, and on his podcast, he'll do the same thing. He'll tell people this exact advice as well. I've known Gary for a long time too. I met him at the Summit Series, which is a great networking group as well. I also think that a lot of people will go and find businesses that have nothing to do with your business and find a lot of commonalities with people. And that kind of mentorship is also very valuable. It's not the same, you're not going to have the same insights, but you're going to learn the same commonalities and realize that you're not alone. So I joined an organization called an Entrepreneurs Organization. It was a group full of entrepreneurs making over $1 million a year. All of us had very similar commonalities, similar sized business challenges, and although very, very different industries. That helped a lot. Another thing I recommend is for you to find similar situations as well. But at the same time, the risks that you take, you should learn from mentors, learn from books, learn from other people's seminars and experiences. You'll learn a lot in college, but you'll have to learn a lot from people that are still in the field, not just academics.
Okay, do you think like that entrepreneurship is like a marriage?
You know what? I think that your business partnership is like a marriage. So that the partners that are in your business. It's not necessarily the same as a marriage because you could buy and sell your business. You can leave your business whenever you want. You can put as much into it as you want. The business will still be there or leave if you own the business. But at the same time, the relationships that are critical for your business, they require maintenance and complete trust. And if that erodes, everything in that relationship will disappear very fast. And so you got to put yourself out there to the point where they know what you're doing, and those roles are known to be, among everyone, very important to the business. So I had dinner once with the president of South Africa, J.W. de Klerk. And he was the one who ended apartheid, which, for if you don't know, is where they ended a situation where there's unequal rights and privileges between the whites and the blacks in South Africa. And he had most of the country's power, the powerful people, against ending apartheid. They wanted to keep that structure in place. So I said, how are you able to create a system of apartheid? How are you able to destroy that system when you had so many people in power there to want to fight you tooth and nail? And he said, well, the most important thing is I just had to get everyone into my vision. It wasn't a systematic process where you had to do X, Y, Z. Once everyone believed in the same mission and the same vision, it would all work together. Everyone worked together to find out how to make that system disappear. The same thing happens when you're running a business. If you get the main leadership and the people under that leadership in alignment and unified, you will have a situation where everyone is successful.
Okay. Well, that's very interesting. And I think that one of the challenges, the biggest challenges are like transmitting all these to the entrepreneurs. How do you think it's a good way to transmit this? How do you make them do it?
Well, how do you make the entrepreneurs do it, or the people who work for you?
The entrepreneurs.
Okay. Well, entrepreneurs, you can't make them do anything. If you're an entrepreneur, the only way you could do it is to want to do it yourself. So you could be inspiring other people to do it. You could show other people the path that you've taken. There's a philosopher named Gestalt. And what he has always taught people is that in order to get people to want to do something, they have to be inspired, but they can't be told to do something. So if you tell someone, you should do this, you should do that, and you're a parent of a child, they might listen. The child might listen to the parents. If you're an entrepreneur and you're listening to other entrepreneurs, you're only going to trust that person if you know that they've put themselves out there themselves. So you could say, to somebody, what do I do in this situation? They can tell you what, but if you really want to have somebody that you really listen to, instead you'll say, well, from my experience, I've done this, and when this happened, I got XYZ result. And that always gets you a lot more credibility. It's a lot easier to talk to other entrepreneurs from that standpoint. Now, if you don't have anything that directly relates to that problem, there's ancillary things that are similar, where you can still share your personal experience. It won't necessarily be exactly the same situation, but that analogy would at least show that you know that your experience is different, and you're just trying to help them from your own experience. You're not telling them that, this is what you think they should be doing. I think it's a lot easier to guide people that way. You can also incentivize them. You can incentivize them with pretty much anything. You could say, if you do this, I will help you with this, or something, to give them a shot. Yeah. Especially if you're working together as some kind of a JV partner.
Yeah, I think it's very important that you find the real partner for your business, because it's someone who you're gonna be working for the whole time during the time that your business is running. So since I'm very into the entrepreneurship area, I find out that it's very common that entrepreneurs in here find this part very difficult. And sometimes I just think, like, I would like to share them what I know or what I've learned, and some other people are also very good, and like they can be some good influencers, but I think something is stopping them. I don't know what exactly. So what do you think it's like a good way to become a good influencer?
If you want to be a good influence on the people that are working with you in the Entrepreneur Center, then what I would do is just crush it yourself. Be a good, shining example and a role model, and show them that you're making a difference. They're going to want to know what you're doing. You will share those stories, share those ideas. Another thing you could do is do exactly what you're doing with me. Reach out to other people that are CEOs, entrepreneurs, people that have accomplished something, and have them share their ideas.
Okay. How do you help that you're not like showing that you know more than others in a bad way? I don't know if you get my question. Like,
yeah, I get it.
Sometimes it's like, oh, you're just showing you off, and it's not that way. It's just like, I want to help you, and I want to show you what I know in order for you to help you.
Sure. What I would do is I would practice Gestalt. That was the first thing I would do. The second thing I would do is, as opposed to talking and advising, if you really want to help them, get involved with their business. Volunteer your time to actually help. Ask them questions. I think that questions are always a lot more effective than statements anyway. not necessarily a question of like, hey, have you thought about doing this, where it's really just secretly giving them advice, but more like, what do you feel are the missing pieces that you need most help with?
Okay.
And then try to figure out how you can contribute towards that, because that's what's on their mind. If they don't know what that is, then get them mentors. But most of the time, if people are going to be stubborn, it's because they have things that are on their mind and they want those issues resolved first. They have a prioritization. They have a different prioritization than what you think it should be, because they're in their own reality. So if you align what that is to you, and you align what that should be, you'll be in the same mission.
Yeah, yeah. So it's also because I'm also a student, and I'm into a very in the school, the university, and the entrepreneurship part. So there are some people, there are some good people that want to jump out on here, but they don't just believe on it on themselves, and also they don't know who to reach. So I think since I'm like in both areas, I think I could help those young students that are needing maybe a little push to jump on here, and that they believe themselves, that they believe that they could do it, that they could really do it.
Yeah, I think that because entrepreneurship requires you to take initiative, they have to be willing to take initiative and take the risks and be that risk-taking person. Most people shouldn't be entrepreneurs, at least in this day and age. Everyone should be entrepreneurial, but they need to be part of a team. Most people can't do it themselves. So they need to realize that they need to be a part of that team first and foremost. I also believe in the future that the landscape is changing. More and more people are not becoming necessarily an entrepreneur where they're building a large business and company and team, but they're becoming self-employed. And I see that more and more likely than people becoming an entrepreneur and building their own team. I see that being super easy, especially with the internet, where you can just sell goods on the internet. You don't need a storefront. You don't need cost of goods sold. It's super easy with all the technology that's out there. I also think that you getting mentors and being a connector yourself could be helpful as well. You getting people to your entrepreneur center will get you more contacts, more mentors, and more people in the future. Have them speak in front of your groups and make them your personal mentor as well. Continue the relationship. Continue to invite them out for bites or drinks, or just to hang out and talk and share your ideas. Most people are honored by the opportunity to share. I am as well. I'm definitely honored to be able to share my ideas with people. I think that pretty much anyone is.
Okay, so it's not like a big challenge to ask for a mentor.
Most people, if you ask them and say, hey, I want you as a mentor, most of them would say yes. I think that you'll be surprised how infrequently that happens, especially for people that are local to you in Mexico. Yeah. I bet if you went to pretty much anywhere, you could probably be an apprentice to almost anybody. I mean, even me, I most recently was an apprentice to some famous movie producers. And I already have my own company and everything, but I have mentors too.
Okay, so that's very interesting. So now, talking a little bit about network, how do you build a network?
Well, I spend a lot of time doing my networking to the point where it's almost like a full-time job. It doesn't have to be like that. You could join already existing networks, and then just make sure that whenever you leave a group, you get the contact information of as many people that you even have the remote possibility of wanting to connect with those people again. When I go to a networking organization, my goal isn't to build deep relationships in that organization. My goal is to try to find people that I want to connect with, and then set up a time where I can sit one-on-one with these people over lunch, dinner, or drinks, and figure out how we can have a partnership. Or I will tell them my ideas. Recently, I've been doing a lot of interviews, so I'll ask them to be a part of my interviews. Other times, I'll say, hey, I host regular luncheons and dinner parties with other influential people and really fun people as well that I think you should be a part of, because I think you're a cool person as well. And then share contact information and invite them to be a part of your group. I do that a lot. I mean, especially when I was in LA full time as someone who was first building my company, I did that multiple times a day. If I was eating by myself, I thought like I was wasting time. Especially, I had to do something else, not just eat. And pretty much that same rule applies to pretty much anyone. When you look at your downtime, try to leverage your time as much as possible.
Okay, and what's the best way of meeting people? How do you take the most advantage out of your networking?
Well, what I'd like to do when I go to a networking group is I try to get to know people, find some facts about them, find out who they are, get their contact information, and then build a longer, deeper relationship with them. When I go into a group, let's say like a networking group, and I want to meet somebody, I'll just walk up to them, introduce myself, tell them a little bit about myself, ask questions about themselves, find out what they do for a living, find out what they're working on, their project they're most passionate about, what they're looking for, why they came to the networking event. Tell them why you came to the networking event. Tell them some cool experiences and stories about yourself. Make yourself seem fun. Tell them about like the most interesting things you've been working on or things you've been doing. Make yourself intriguing. But develop a hook, a way that that person might want to reconnect with you in the future.
Okay. Okay. I remember you telling when you were at Stanford exactly that part, that last part, that whenever you want to talk to an investor, it's like having a hook in order for him to want to keep talking to you and investing in your own project. As it's the same as dating. I remember you made that relation that whenever you want to, when you are going out with a girl, with a boy, you have a hook in order for him or her to engage into you and have wanting to keep talking to you. I think that's very interesting and probably the most important thing, right?
Absolutely. An exercise that I think I also mentioned at Stanford, I'm not sure, but an exercise I used to do for my boot camp clients, the dating boot camp, was we would take people to the department store, make them go on an escalator with a random person, and they have 30 seconds from the bottom of the escalator to the top. And during that time, I want them to be able to develop a hook where they could keep them in the conversation, and then want to continue the conversation at the top of the escalator. And that's a networking exercise, because that's how much time you have to hook people's attention before they want to walk away from you, whether it's in dating or in the business world. I will also say, though, as you get better at this, you'll find that the people that you're networking with will invite you to other networking events. You never know who knows who or who knows what, or how that person can be a part of your life. So I never discount anyone, whether they're my maid, my handyman, or whether they're a billionaire CEO and a famous celebrity. I mean, today I'm going to an investor conference as well. I'm a potential investor in a future Broadway musical called Marilyn, about the life of Marilyn Monroe. So I got invited for free drinks and to a free showing here in Las Vegas before it goes out live for people that are investing in Broadway musicals. Now, I'm primarily just investing in my own. That's my goal. I'm interested in making one about the story of my company. At the same time, my point wasn't about that role, is that I got invited to this event because I became friends with somebody who introduced me to somebody else. That person stayed in touch with me for years, just by text message on holidays, or maybe he read about me in the news and would want to talk to me about things and make sure he'd offer me support, especially when I was being attacked in the news. And then that person became a friend, and now we're doing business together, and he offered me a chance to go to this really cool, fun opportunity. You never know when something's going to happen that way. These random ideas, these random people you meet, even in random cities. I mean, I was really good friends and great as a networker when I was in college. It was something that I focused on more than I focused on school. And I had a friend of mine from Wisconsin on the other side of the country. And now he's my friend here in Vegas because we randomly met in the Baskin-Robbins ice cream shop, both ordering ice cream from the store. And now we're really good friends.
Awesome.
One of my closest friends in town. You never know what's going to happen. So you always want to develop deep relationships. Stay in touch with as many people as you can.
So whenever you meet someone, for example, in a networking event or things like that, how long uh, should you be calling him or emailing him in order to don't lose that relation or that contact?
Well, I mean, you got to figure out, first of all, like how likely do you think this person, from having you met this person, is that person going to want to stay in touch with you? I mean, one thing I'll do is everyone I want to stay in touch with, I'll keep them on a list on the top of my head of people that I would want to invite to, say, a regular gathering at my home. So every month I'll invite 20 to 30 people to my home. I don't expect everyone to respond, but I'll invite them over and then I'll introduce them to each other. This is a networking opportunity. It's a chance for me to get to know my friends better and also go deeper with people that I don't really have as friends, but are acquaintances I want to get to know better.
Okay.
It's been a great tool. Now, I've done it where we cook the food ourselves. We don't order from a restaurant. Not only is it cheaper, it's higher quality. And everyone will contribute. You know, people will bring bottles of wine or they'll bring a dish. I have friends who do that every week. One of the most powerful people in the city of Las Vegas is Tony Hsieh. And he has a networking event every week at his home. It is a Sunday brunch at his home. And it's a great way to stay in touch with people. I think it's something that you could do too. I mean, you could have regular get-togethers, not even with food. You could have it for free at the Entrepreneur Center. We just invite a mentor. Or have a potluck where everyone contributes together. It's not that expensive to do. Now, in terms of time and regularity, there's not a secret formula. It's all about how much time you want to put in it. I have some people who contact me once a year. Some people say every 6 months. My friends, I'll try to stay in touch with them as often as I possibly can. I get a lot more busy nowadays. I mean, I used to work 100 hours a week when I was in startup mode. I'm still doing that right now. But I've also had times where I didn't work. I've taken a very long period of time off work. But figure out who's really busy and who has time to get involved with these things. Invite them. People who are starting to show up at your events, people who are interested in you. Those are people that have the time to develop a relationship. I'm not interested just in meeting powerful people. I'm interested in people that also mostly just have time for me in their lives.
Okay, and what advice would you give to someone who wants to engage into a conversation or to talk to someone that is very introverted?
Well, everyone's who's introverted. You know, sometimes I'm very introverted. I prefer oftentimes just to play video games or play golf and chill with very few people around me. But introverted people, if they trust you or like you, will open up just as extroverted as an extrovert. The key is to build that trust over time. You know, introverted people and extroverted people both have the same goal in business, which is to be successful. So if you could be an incentive to that person to help that person, then I think that person, regardless of whether they're introverted or not, if you figure out a way to figure out what's most important to them and you can help them on that, then that's useful. Now there's some common things that I always do, just in case I can't figure that out, if they don't want to share that. Everyone likes eating, everyone likes meeting cool people, and everyone likes positive attitudes. So if you have all three, then you could offer that to anyone, whether it's a millionaire, billionaire, or whether it's just the person next door.
Yeah, for sure. And well, going back a little bit when you were giving the example of the escalator, uh, what do you think are some good tips or good ideas about effective communication? So, for in that example, you have to really know what to say in order to hook the person you're talking to. So, what are some good ways of practicing or being good on effective communication?
Well, there is a great book that I recommend you reading because a lot of the things I could recommend to you are already written in it. It's a book by Robert Cialdini called Influence. Influence, and the subtitle of the book is The Power of Persuasion. And it's actually a course I went through when I was at my business school in USC. Now, one of the things that it talks about are the principles of communications in sales. One of them is that everyone needs to feel like their time is being valued. So what you could do is you could create somewhat of a time constraint or a feeling of a time constraint, so they know that you're not just there to waste their time. I mean, when you're talking to somebody, if there's a sense of urgency or that you're a busy person, then they'll get that feeling from you. I mean, sometimes you can even just straight up saying, hey, I got a quick question. That's an example. I mean, there's like 100 of them I could give you. And then start talking to them about your question. Or you can notice something about somebody and give them a genuine compliment about somebody, about what they look like, or maybe something about something that they said if you're already in a conversation with them, or their demeanor, how they hold themselves. But get them interested fast. Now, if you're trying to just start a conversation with, say, for networking purposes, and you're in an environment that's conducive to that, it's pretty easy because everyone is there for the purpose of networking. You go to a bar, everyone's there for the purpose of socializing. So it's different than if you're walking down the street. Now, if you're walking down the street, you need to say things that might captivate someone's attention. So an example I would give you would be when I met my wife. She was just walking down the street towards me, and I stopped her. I said, hey, are you walking to that bar or club over there? Because if you are, it's not what you think it's going to be. Instead, I have a better idea. I'm visiting from California, and there's a restaurant down the street with great drinks. It's a much better time. I think we should talk, and you should come with me there instead. Just something that kind of gives the full story. But you see, one of the things about what I was saying there, I was going to try to analyze that or overanalyze that, is that it wasn't just, hey, how's it going? And then you just pause, right? Sometimes that's good. It's autopilot response. You continue the conversation, right? So you have a hook. So a lot of people don't have enough in their conversation in the beginning. So it's like, you go, hey, what's up? My name is Nick. You can say their name, and you'd be like, yeah, I came over here to this networking event. I found out about it because my friend, who knows that I'm developing this really cool product for my company, told me that would be a good place to meet people. What got you inspired to come down here? Tell me about what you're working on. Something like that. That would be a good communication starter, just like a potential opener. At the same time...
Do you think... I'm sorry.
No, go for it.
Do you think you should practice that or just improvise?
I think that you could do both. If you need training wheels, you could practice that, but you could also improvise. Honestly, the things that usually happen as an exercise for those people who don't know what to say, it's usually because they don't clear their mind and just think about what they're wanting to say and say it. Because when you get that out of the way, you can be more fluid in your conversation. So an exercise that I would do with somebody would be on boot camp, for example, where they're learning how to just talk to people in social environments. I might say, clear your mind, and think about the first noun that comes to your mind. Now I'd say chocolate. I'd say, cool. Now clear your mind again. Imagine your mind's an empty movie screen at the movie theater. Now what's the second noun that you think of? The first thing, the object that pops in your head. And you might say, I'm thinking about a video game character. And that basically says, cool, now what you need to do is you need to start a conversation with those two topics in your mind, because that's what's on your mind right now. So they might walk up to somebody and then say, I have a craving for chocolate, maybe because I've been playing video games all day. And then maybe that's how they start the conversation. They just walked up to someone and say that. And then they say, hi, my name's Nick, how's it going? What are you up to? And you just start. It doesn't necessarily have to be anything very smart. It doesn't have to be something that's funny. But you just got to convey who you are. Another book that I recommend is Radical Honesty. It's a book that talks about the power of speaking what's on your mind.
Okay, awesome. That's very interesting. So now talking a little bit about the entrepreneurship, what would you say to young entrepreneurs that are starting their new path or their new journey into an entrepreneurship?
Well, for new entrepreneurs who are first starting, I would say work very hard. Spend all your time and sacrifice all your friends, all your family, and all your money. Because that's usually what it takes. And if you're not willing to do that, then most of the time you shouldn't be an entrepreneur.
Okay.
Or get investors. I've never gone that route, but then you have a safety net. Don't risk your money. Have a job as a backup to financially protect you and cover you. Now, I'm a lot more risk adverse. At the same time, I've sacrificed and failed. You're talking to somebody that has lived a life in mansions and private jets, but I've also been somebody who has lived in his car and then gone to hotels that had free food in the lobby just to eat that food at that hotel and continue to live, because I've taken big shots and won and big shots and lost. I prefer people to take the safe route because I don't want to be the one responsible for them becoming that guy.
Okay. And what is the biggest thing you've learned on your path during entrepreneurship?
It's not easy. And it's also something that has unexpected challenges every day. And just when you think you know everything, something new happens. But the field experience and the reference experiences that you've learned in the past will make you stronger and a better person and allow you to push forward. And for some reason, whenever you face a new challenge, you're usually going to be ready for it at that next stage. Just keep building yourself stronger and better.
Okay. All right. And how can you make people be interested in whatever you're selling, in your product or in your service?
You can't make everyone interested in your product and service, but you can make a product and service that's great for a particular kind of customer. You got to develop an avatar of a customer. Who is that person? What do they want and need? Now, if you want to develop a product or service, it's not usually a product or service that you develop and then you try to find a customer for it. You need to find out what customers are missing, what people are talking about they wish they had, and service that need. And then target at that customer. Find out where that customer is. So if my customer is somebody who is a business client and he wishes to have a faster, easier technological platform to communicate with people in a quick and effective way, then I would find out what that person is missing from his life. I'd interview this person. I'd interview 1,000 of these people. I would offer him my product to that person and see how he would modify it. I would get him as my first customer for free. Then I would get my first customer for a fee. And I would interview that person until I made the best product for both of those people.
Right. So you just talked about a little bit about the project that I'm creating. Well, the project that we created on the trip camp. So we're trying right now to promote it for people to vote it and to see it and to be interested into that. So what do you think it's a good way or an effective way of promoting it?
So you have a product, which is a technological platform where you could use it on your phone and you could ask questions. And those quick questions will give you a response and hopefully get you a better result. Now, a lot of people will wonder, how is your product different from Google? Because people could go on their phone, they could Google those questions. Well, your tool has to be specific and targeted to them so it gets to a specific thing that's more difficult to find than what Google could find. Maybe specific information, maybe stuff that's not even available on Google, so that's something that's private. Make it unique, have a unique selling proposition of some kind. That's one way to do things. Another way you could do things is if it's an exclusive product that people could private label for their own questions within their own intranet that's not available to the public. I think you have a lot of directions you could go with what you're developing. I mean, a lot of people have similar platforms. I would look at what you can do that's different. But the bottom line is, you got to know who your customer is. It's not the fact that, yeah, you made some really cool technology. You could ask something a question and it give you an answer back. A lot of people have developed similar stuff. I mean, you have that in the Echo device where you ask it a question, or Siri for the Apple. Now, can you ask a question to it? And it gives you something that those resources cannot. If that's the case, now you have a service that is a viable business. If you can't, then you're competing with very powerful competitors. So what you got to figure out is how to get your client base can be that mass client base if you want to compete with big competitors. Otherwise, you need to niche that product and target a very specific group and have a lot less customers, but people who are willing to pay you a lot more money. Those are two very different routes. So you got to figure out which one you want to do.
Okay. All right. So after all this, whatever, everything we've talked, how do you think I can put it into practice?
Well, I think that the thing that you're doing now is great. I think you reached out to me. I would also reach out to other people in your local community. Find out who the most powerful businessmen are in your community. People that you'd want to meet. People that you want to connect with. Tell them that you're part of this entrepreneurial center, that you're interviewing other powerful people, and tell them some of the people that you've met. Tell them what you're working on. Let them know they can be a part of your audience. They can share their wisdom with more than just you, or they can mentor you directly. Volunteer for them and put it in practice. Find the powerful networking communities in your community, and if they don't exist, build one of your own. Host your own events. I've always been a fan of putting the time and effort to hosting my own events, but if they already exist, join them instead, because it will save you a lot of time. And also, I would put yourself out there, put your business out there, find those customer avatars, and work on developing a product that is not just a product that you develop internally, but that you share with other people. Don't be afraid of people just stealing your idea. Everyone's thought of every other possible idea. I'm never afraid of sharing ideas. Everyone's always like, oh, I can't tell you my idea because if I told you, you'd steal it. It's so good. No, there's a million ideas out there that are amazing. It's not about having a good idea. It's about executing on those ideas.
That's very interesting. And how can I get to those influencers? Sometimes I think that it's very challenging for me since they see me like very down. Oh, dear student, no, nobody cares about you, or you don't really know as much as me. Or sometimes I find that part very, very difficult. Or sometimes I don't really believe it myself that I have the ability or the knowledge to go and talk to an influencer. Okay. So what do you think I can do in that case?
So your question basically tells me that you have something called a limiting belief. I want to talk to you about something that is talked about a lot by John Maxwell. He had a book called Psycho-Cybernetics. Now, if I was to show you a picture frame of a lake, two people could see that lake and have completely different realities. One person could see that lake and think, that's a beautiful lake. That lake reminds me of a time in my childhood where I used to go fishing with my father. I wish I could go to that lake. Another person could say, wow, that lake, it's so moldy, it's so dusty, it's horrible. And when I look at a student, we could say, why would someone want to talk to me? I'm just a student. Another person would say, everyone's going to want to talk to me because they know that I'm a student, because a student's supposed to learn. Now, what I've found from my personal experience, if I was going to contact anyone, from the CEO of a large hotel chain to the CEO of Home Depot, as a student, and say, I'm a student at XYZ institution or school, I have a few questions I'd like to ask you. I'd like to get some answers for it, or I'd like to invite you out to dinner and interview you. I've done this, and I've gotten responses, and I've built relationships. As a student, you have a massive ability to reach out to people. At the same time, when you're not a student, you have the same ability. I would say that you will get those results. It's just how you frame the situation. So if you want to frame it to other people as, hey, you're somebody who's doing this as a student, learning, you're a go-getter, you're enthusiastic, and you're hoping to learn from other people, and that's why you're in school, and that you thought that they could be a mentor outside of school to answer some questions. Don't care if they respond or not. Remember, that's another thing I mentioned earlier. But go out there and get somebody into your network. Now, I'm someone so extreme that if I got a company directory and I want to meet some particular company, that I'll reach out to everyone in that company until I get the response I want. I'm just that kind of persistence. You don't have to be that level of persistence. Can't hurt though.
Yeah. Well, it's tough. Sometimes I think it's tough. But
I think it also depends on how you craft your message though.
so I try to what? Sorry?
It depends on how you craft the communication. How do you express that message? So if you go to them and say, "Hi, I'm a student, can you teach me?" You might not get a response. But if you say, "Hi, I'm a student that's created an awesome technological platform and I'm so enthusiastic about it that I've been interviewing CEOs from around the world and also bringing people to my entrepreneur center where I have mentors mentor other entrepreneurs. I'd love to have you speak to my group or meet with me personally for lunch. Please let me know if you'd be able to be free because I have a lot of respect for what you've done. And maybe if you knew some facts about them, you could say what those facts were." Now that would give you a very different way of saying things. You're more likely to get success from the latter comment, from the last comment.
Yeah. That's very good. That's a very good way of seeing it. So I think probably I should just like believe it on myself and think bigger.
I want you to think about things not just from believing in yourself, but also the standpoints of features and benefits. Think about every person in your life like a customer. Now, a feature would be what the product is. So in your situation, you're a girl, you're a student, you're an entrepreneur. Those are features about you. What are the benefits of you? We could say that you're an outgoing person that wants to introduce people to other people. You're somebody who has developed an entrepreneurship network that can help other people. You're somebody who's outgoing and is willing to volunteer your time to other people, and that you have a lot of respect for other people. And that respect for that other person is why you're opening the door to opportunities that you have in your possession. So basically, think about yourself as the product. Think about what the features and benefits that you have, and focus on the benefits. And that's what we talk about when we're talking about offering value to other people.
All right. Okay. So it's like, do you think we can relate it to whenever we're selling a product? Do you think it's the same thing?
It's very, very similar.
Okay.
I mean, you're in relationships. Every relationship exists because both parties are getting benefit out of it. It doesn't have to be monetary. It could also be just comfort, trust, or emotions, feel-good stuff. But relationships and friendships exist because people get some value out of it. Sometimes it can be selfless. I mean, if I'm volunteering my time for a charity, I'm not expecting anything back. But the reason why you volunteer is also selfish as well, because you get a feel-good feeling deep down inside for helping other people. And that's selfish. That's a benefit that they get. That's how it helps them, the person who's volunteering their time. So think about the benefits that you could offer any relationship or any person that you want to develop a potential relationship with, whether for business or social.
Okay, and how do you think I can start, or could be my starting point when trying to influence all the people around me?
Well, the starting point that I would do is to focus on you helping the people that are most important to you, your friends and your family, and then think about how you could also develop relationships with those people that are most important to your business, potential business partners, JV partners, investors, your coworkers, and just try to help them as much as possible. And make sure that they're offering that value to you. Make sure they have the same mindset, because if they don't, then you want to cut out those energy leeches out of your life.
Okay. Something that I also struggle with is having a balance into work, entrepreneurship, studying also, with family life, personal life. How do you think it's a good way of balancing both? Because it takes a lot of time.
Definitely. Well, I think that the people that are your loved ones are definitely your most important thing. They also should understand, if you are an entrepreneur, and especially in your startup phase, your first 3 to 5 years, that if you want to be successful, you're going to spend less time with them. It is a balancing act, though. It is a big balancing act. It's a challenging one. I've lost a lot of friendships over becoming an entrepreneur. At the same time, as one that has made a lot of money and got to go do a lot of cool experiences, I now have a lot of friends. But the friends that are most important to you are the friends that will be with you on the good times and the bad times. So keep those people around no matter what.
Okay. Great. And how do you think you could relate more with people that are not very, like, don't know you that well? That you're just meeting them.
Well, if you want to make a connection with somebody,
Yeah.
find out what they're passionate about, what they do, notice things about them, and try to relate to them as much as you can. And if you can't, expand your knowledge, expand your passions. I've participated in extracurricular activities, traveled around the world, things that I've never considered doing, things that sometimes I don't even want to do, just to understand how the world works and be able to relate to other people. So if somebody tells me that their passion is yoga, I've done it. It's not something that I've done more than once, but I could understand what they do and I could share my experience from it. So that's one thing that I found very useful for me. That also takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
But it also allows your conversational repertoire to be more interesting, more fun.
Okay. And whenever you're getting your own team for your project or whatever you're doing, what are the clue points that you have to look for on a teammate?
Well, I look for someone who's willing to not just be a part of the business or be a part of the team, but someone who wants to do it, not out of money, but out of actually wanting to do it. That's another reason why I make everyone in my company work as a volunteer or an intern first, to make sure that I know that they're dedicated, they like what they're doing. They're not doing it just for a paycheck. And you can find people to volunteer from students, from postings. People just want to be part of something cool. The other question, though, is whether they have the skills. But I want to surround myself with positive people. And if they're negative or they're draining, I'd rather not have anything to do with them. So that's the most important things I look for: loyalty, positive attitude, and trust.
All right. So now going, well, you at the beginning you mentioned that you're really into education. What do you think about education in general?
Well, I believe that there's two kinds of education you can learn. One is from learning from the classroom environment, and two, learning from the field and the work environment. And I believe that you could learn a lot from both, because when you're in the classroom environment, you're going to learn from history. You're going to learn from all sorts of lessons of people, from successes and failures that you get to avoid or take advantage of. In the field, you'll learn a lot of stuff. Lessons that you want to apply in the field are lessons you learn from the classroom. And you also learn things that you can't learn in the classroom, things that you have to learn on your own, from actually doing it yourself. I mean, it's different going to, say, like a beach and feeling the wind in your hair, feeling your feet in the sand, the water, as opposed to reading a story and having it described to you. That's why the field is so important. The field experience to me is king.
Okay, all right. Do you think that education is going to change in the following years?
Absolutely, because most of what you could learn from YouTube. I think that if you want to learn almost anything on the internet, you could learn for free. So if I'm in a remote village in Africa and I want to learn how to set up a village of internet connections and a coffee shop, I could learn how to do that on YouTube. Now, if I was going to go to school and I want to learn how to do that specific thing, it's not going to be in my textbooks. So I think a lot of people are going to learn more and more from the digital age. Now, maybe school could guide you to those digital resources. But as opposed in the past, we had to go to a library. All you have to do is pull your phone out of your pocket.
That's true. And what about the teachers? Do you think they will disappear?
No. I think that teachers provide something that you can't really replace, which is an accountability system. It's like a checks and balances. So anyone could say they know something, but teachers giving grades, giving you curriculum, giving you tests, that gives you credibility in the real world. Also, it allows you to be motivated or keep you on track. Now, in the real world, people have accountability partners. But some people need structure. They need people to provide accountability partners. In the business world, that's for sure. But in the academic world, your teacher is your accountability partner. So I don't believe teachers will ever disappear. And also because teachers will learn things that are not written down. And if you ask a teacher a question, they can give you a quick response.
Yeah. That's very true.
It's also more fun for me. Some people learn through those real world interactions better than being in front of a computer screen all day. Being able to meet and touch and have an emotional connection with other people is also important.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the same happens with classmates. It's not the same thing as being in front of the computer all day, but engaging also with some other friends and classmates and engaging the conversation, having that experience also.
Absolutely. I think that having peers also increase your ability to communicate better with other people.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Okay. Well, I think that's all my questions. I really appreciate your time and answering my questions and my wonders. I think it was very, very enjoyable and very helpful for me. And for sure, I'm more inspired now. And for sure, I'm gonna put into practice all this we talked today. And yeah, I'm just with a lot of things in my mind and trying to put it all together and start doing something.
Oh, great. That's really great to hear. I hope you email me about your successes and that you stay in touch. So if you ever come to Las Vegas, let me know.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Okay, well,
Thank you very much.
yeah, thank you. It's been a great pleasure.